I am determined to lead my country with my deep conviction to comprehensive democracy.
Nepal is roaring and rumbling in revolt. A revolt that has been led by its Gen Z. Like everywhere else, it is the young who always lead the movement for change. But the scenes out of Nepal in the last few hours have been nothing short of extraordinarily dramatic. Nepal is on edge, the airport is closed, as thousands and thousands of young people have taken to the streets, compelling the Oli government to step down. The Prime Minister of Nepal, or the erstwhile Prime Minister of Nepal, has stepped down. But his home, as well as the President's house and the Parliament building, have been set ablaze by angry people who say that it is a misclassification of their protests to say that it was about the ban on social media. That ban did not even last a day. A new policy that demanded pre-registration of anyone on social media, which young people said was actually about the government trying to shut them down. But the eruption we have seen today points to a deep sort of unsettled energy, and it's not clear what might happen next. To understand the view from India, but also the view from Nepal, let me introduce our distinguished panel of experts on the program today. Padma Rao Sundarji is with us, a veteran journalist. It's always good to see you, who's been pounding the pavement, as it were, for decades on the foreign policy beat. Veteran diplomat, one of India's finest strategic minds, Ambassador Rakesh Sood is with us. Good to see you, sir. And for a perspective from Nepal, not perfect, but we couldn't actually connect right now to anybody on the ground in Nepal, is a voice from Nepal whose life is here, at least for the moment, in India. Dr. Ashwina Basnet is with us. She's from Nepal, but she works on women's rights here in India. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. I think since this is about Nepal, let me get Ashwina first, and then we'll come to how we're looking at it, maybe from Delhi, what our concerns are, what our analysis is. Ashwina, what is this about? What is actually happening? When it was first reported, it was reported as young people, Gen Z, coming out on the streets because they didn't like the new policy on social media use. You are among those who actually use social media, Instagram, to message me and say this is not about social media, it's about corruption.
Yeah.
Tell me what's actually going on here.
It had been going on since some time. Like I can say, if you've been reading news about Nepal, I'll always say that you've always heard about unstable politics. Like there's always an instability when it comes to politics. So that was there. Then slowly in last few months or since last year, you can see that social media, like the TikTok had also been banned and a lot of things were happening. But recently what exactly happened was a lot of politicians kids lifestyle started being exposed in social media, where you could see the luxurious life that they were leading. So started questioning, everyone started questioning, where is the money coming from? So when that thing started happening and the youth started questioning as to that it's the people's tax, right, that the government earns money from, but how are they able to afford all of those things? So that's when it started. And slowly when these things were coming up, the government made this entire announcement that all the social media apps which has not been registered in Nepal will be banned. So it was like kind of like they were trying to shut the youth's voices. That's when this erupted, where the youth started taking the lead that no, this needs to change. Like they started questioning. So when all the things started being banned, then everyone came on street. So it was a peaceful protest which was decided. It started off also in a very peaceful way, but all of a sudden there was started the kids started being like I'm beaten up by the police, and a lot of things started escalating yesterday. So that is what the entire thing was. It was tentatively, I could say, that they were trying to control people from like freedom of speech and expression. So that is what was
Yeah,
happening in this.
I get the genesis of it, but briefly, before I open it up, why are buildings being burned? We have seen today the president's house, the
Yes.
parliament, the prime minister, former prime minister's house.
Yeah.
You say it started peacefully, and there was a clampdown of the state, and there was disproportionate force. What are you hearing from your friends who are out on the streets right now?
See, the thing is, like 20 people died, 20 kids died. One of them was 12-year-old, another was 14-year-old kid, right? So people in school uniform, when you look at children who were on street protesting, it could have been a peaceful protest. Then a lot of people went missing. Like yesterday when the kids died, and then there was this entire news that the cabinet had sat down for meetings after 5 p.m. They could have resigned it then also, but I think it was the ego of the government which led to their own downfall. They could have spoken something or the other yesterday, but still they didn't step down. And still there was this entire thing, the social media angle thing as well, that when the KP Oli said that okay, we will still ban the social media even at night, they said. And while some ministers kept saying, why will the prime minister step down? So this started escalating yesterday also. So it was the action of yesterday. If the government would have said something, I think it would have been controlled, but they didn't. They let the things be the way it was, which led to all the ministers' houses being burned today. So that is action of what the youth were demanding. They didn't listen to the youth. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you people are angry. So I think it was entirely this, and a lot of kids died. If you've seen the videos, it's really tragic to see how could they do that.
Yeah.
So that led to the outburst of the citizen.
Thank you for sharing that, and it's very important for us to get a perspective from Nepal, and therefore I'm grateful for your perspective, Ambassador Sood. What is the view from Delhi? I mean, this is in some ways, some of it, though no country is identical. We've seen this playbook, right? We've seen it in Sri Lanka, we've seen it in Bangladesh. Every country has its own unique context. Nepal has, in particular seen sort of multiple governments come and go. But you heard Ashwina say this is about much more than political instability. Also, sir, could you unmute yourself before you respond?
Well, I think that the extent of the unrest has taken everybody by surprise, and that includes India as well as the people in Nepal. I don't think that the Nepal government anticipated this kind of meltdown. And what we are seeing is a complete meltdown. Um, you're right, the model is pretty similar. We saw this happen under similar kind of circumstances where there was mass civic action in, let us say, in Colombo in the Aragalaya movement. That happened in 2022 July. It also almost happened in Pakistan when there were popular unrest in 2023 when Imran Khan was arrested. But then the army institutions were attacked, which was a very rare thing for Pakistan. But then the army stepped in and reasserted itself. In 2024, we saw what happened, the monsoon revolution in Bangladesh, and we are still uh, trying to figure out the fallout of that because we don't know what the elections, although they've been announced, whether they will take place or not. And frankly, I do not know what is going to happen in Nepal, and I don't think anybody in Nepal knows that either, because people want the constitution to be changed. They are unhappy with the constitution. What the changes in the constitution are supposed to be, we do not know. So therefore, there is going to be a very strong period of turmoil. Right now, for reasons of security, we've obviously sealed our borders, and but there is enormous amount of insecurity. Now there are mobs going around in different parts of Kathmandu. At least I've heard, I've spoken to people, and there are mobs going around burning houses. And these are not ministers or their private homes or anything like that. These are shop owners or businessmen, or they're burning offices in the suburbs of Kathmandu. So this kind of a thing, then at that stage, now there is no government. There is only a caretaker government, because we know that Prime Minister Oli has resigned. His resignation has been accepted by the president, but obviously, in the absence of any alternatives, he's been asked to continue as an interim prime minister. Um, for a long time, the mayor of Kathmandu, who fancies himself as a young leader, Balen Shah, he kept quiet for more than 24 hours, and now suddenly he has come out in the last couple of hours urging restraint on Gen Z. I
Yeah.
frankly do not know whether his appeals are going to have any impact, because at the moment, Gen Z does not seem to have any central organizing people around whom it has coalesced. So there are amorphous groups. It has also spread into 7, 8 other cities in Nepal. And it is not as if this is a coordinated movement, at least not so far. And that's it's a pretty bleak prospect for the time being.
Yeah. And as you've said, India has sealed borders. We have seen in the past a certain amount of Padma in other contexts, not right now. Also, inflammable situations tend to create anti-India sentiments. We've seen this in the past. Every time we've seen internal turmoil in Nepal, so we've got to proceed as a country with caution and care here. How are you seeing the situation? I think Ambassador Sood makes an excellent point that nobody's in control. Even this rapper turned politician, Balin, he's appealing for peace, but is anybody listening to anybody? And this is what happens often with mass protests, which are not centralized. At the end of it, you don't know who's in charge. What's your take, Padma?
Well, just going back to what Ambassador Sood pointed out, the differences or the similarities with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. There are certain similarities, but there are also certain differences. I mean, Nepal became a republic in 2008. New constitution, which Ambassador Sood referred to, people are not satisfied with, was adopted in 2015. But we're now in 2025, and power has been held repeatedly by the same three parties and men. This just resigned Prime Minister Oli, former PM, erstwhile Maoist leader Prachanda, Sher Bahadur Deuba of the Congress. That's 14 governments or something like that in 17 years. That's a lot of unchanging change. And
Yeah.
whenever that happens, something similar happened in Bangladesh with Sheikh Hasina, and also with the Rajapaksa regime in Sri Lanka, who were in power for the major part of the post-war years. So I think whenever that happens, dissatisfaction tends to set in, and also authoritarian rule tends to set in. That's what happened in all three countries. But while the governments in Sri Lanka, government could cite security, because they said 30 years of civil war, and then after that the Easter attacks as a reason for heightened surveillance or for being more draconian. Nepal cannot use that as an excuse, really, other than in the years immediately after the Palace massacre in 2001. So, and there are other similarities also. There's tourism being the mainstay revenue earner in both the countries. And in Nepal's case, of course, poverty leading to a lot of Nepalis going abroad to seek work, which made the social media all that much more important, because it was being used by the tourism industry also, and also for money, to be repatriated to sent back to Nepal. But was it the ban on the social media alone? I agree with Ashwina. I don't think so. I think the social media ban was not the only reason. This was a lot of pent up rage and a pent up, and certainly the social media led to greater awareness and highlighted issues which would have otherwise remained subverted, like corruption and nepotism, much like in Sri Lanka and Pakistan, dare I say even here, globalization and social media serve to increase the focus. And there were, as you said, these repeated stories of nepo kids or nepo babies, children of the privileged political class getting certain favors and certain, privileged treatment. Now, this was on the rise. Dissatisfaction was on the rise. And then, of course, there's the unemployment rate, which has gone up to, I think, more than 11% now. And like in Sri Lanka, not much progress has been made on repeated election promises. In Sri Lanka's case, that they'll hold provincial elections, and in Nepal's case, tackling corruption, for instance. I mean, which government has not spoken of tackling corruption, and yet the Nepo babies and the Nepo kids continue?